Okay, really?
Shut up. I realized what I was saying as soon as I said it.
Is Corey Phelan going to have to choke a meal?
Welcome to the Archispeak Podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. Each episode, Neil Pan, Cormac Phelan, and I have a casual conversation about all things architecture, and we invite you to listen in as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the blocks of Corbusier's City of Tomorrow more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we stand around the water cooler and talk about why we love our chosen profession. It's time for some Archispeak.
Welcome to episode 32 of the Archispeak Podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And Evan, we have a friend of the show to announce today.
Yeah, this week, Jonathan Brown, also known as Mondo Tiki Man on Twitter, donated $25 to the Archispeak Podcast. And we appreciate it very much, Jonathan. Thank you. And everybody should follow Jonathan on Twitter. It's Mondo_Tiki_Man.
Always a good conversation.
Definitely. And he's an architect in Texas who does work on a lot of housing. And he posts a lot of cool stuff, and he's got a great blog too. So if you'd like to get your name read on the podcast, please go to archispeakpodcast.com/donate and click the button. We would appreciate it. Every dollar helps. Thanks.
I had a friend of mine actually take an exam today as well. And the only reason he did is because if he didn't take an exam by April 31st this year, his 5-year rolling clock would expire and he'd have to do IDP. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why do you care? You're never going to get your license. Although, this being said, I just found out 2 weeks ago, the firm he's been with for 18 years, they do high-end custom homes and wineries and things like that. I mean, like in Hawaii, and for they did Paul Ottinelli's place here in the Bay Area. That that's the CEO of Intel. Mm-hmm. I mean, real freaking high-end stuff, right? And the one owner, it's like two firms in one, and one of them's got nothing to do, hasn't had anything for him to do for weeks, and the other firm's just slowly going away.
Wow.
And so he's like, yeah, I'm going to have to start looking for a job.
Wow.
So it's first time in 18 years, he's going to have to be looking for a job. And I feel sorry for him because, I mean, he's kind of been stuck in AutoCAD doing his own thing in his own world for, a lot of years. And, when I just looked at jobs on the AIA's website today, and it's if you don't have Revit, nobody will talk to you. Every job posted, except for one, wanted Revit skills.
Yeah, it's mostly commercial, though. I mean, there's still residential out there that is still holding strong to
all the others,
AutoCAD and all of the other, just all the other programs. And to be quite honest with you, they're smart to, I mean, unless you have high volume residential work, mm-hmm. It's never going to pay for it. I mean, if you're doing a $1,000, renovation project or a couple $1,000 and your overhead and everything else, I mean, ultimately it would pay for it if we had steady work coming in. But I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a good thing. I'm just saying that smaller firms or solo guys, I mean, that's a huge amount of money.
Cormac, it's really not,
drop
because
on a program.
If you want to buy AutoCAD, you're dropping, I just saw it, AutoCAD for Mac, because that's what I looked up, $4,200. Is Revit more?
It's did it go down? I thought it was around 7.
Are you kidding me? Revit is $7,000.
I don't know.
Well,
You know, they have a subscription now. I don't even think you can buy that stuff standalone, can you? I'm sure someone could tell us.
So, Cormac, you're right. Revit Building Design Suite, $68.25.
Regular price. $78.50 with the subscription.
$78.50? Are you kidding me? $8,000?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Where's that at?
Add to cart.
And
no, are you?
I'm adding to cart.
Yeah, go to
tax return. Goodbye.
Do it. Buy it.
Wait. Oh, that says buy buy. Buy online. It says $68.25. Okay, so if I say add to cart,
say add subscription first, because you want that.
Oh, cloud. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, also tack on the
that's the 78.
The cloud render.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so, because if you it says future save on future upgrades and gain cloud features. That's $78.50, so that's $8,000. So it's $1,000 more.
And we have 25 seats at the office.
Oh, serious?
Yeah, it's a huge investment.
That's $200,000. $196.25. Holy tola! Wow.
Oh, see, you can just do a desktop subscription. Let's see.
That's
annually with basic support, and it's $34.15.
Oh, you know what? The price I was looking at was the perpetual license.
Right.
Okay, so this is better. So if you just get the desktop subscription, you pay annually with basic support. It's only $3,400. Okay, so now that's more reasonable.
Yeah, but that's a year.
Yeah, you have to pay if you pay the $7,800
every year.
You know,
$3,500. Wow.
Yeah.
No wonder why people pirate this.
And these guys come out with a new version every year.
Every year,
you gotta upgrade. You don't have to, but you do if, like, say you're working with MEP or structural engineer who they're like, yeah, we're using Revit, but we're now using Revit 2014. And you're on 2013, and you got to
upgrade.
Anytime they open up your stuff, you have to upgrade.
Oh,
because this is not backwards compatible. It is not like AutoCAD.
You can't save down a version.
Nope. You cannot save down a version.
Get the out. Serious. Wow.
And when you hit that magic little button that says to
open
the one-time upgrade,
yeah.
And then you upgrade your model to 2014.
It doesn't go back.
Anybody who's got 2013 better put 2014 on their machine.
Whoa. Get out.
Yeah, I think I have back to 2011 on my machine.
Yeah, I've actually, I had them clean all the crap off because I was like, look, we're all now have 14 projects. All of the projects that I've finished, I did CA. I went ahead and upgraded the one that that was started in 2009, and I went ahead and upgraded it to 14. Honestly, it's easier and it
Vectorworks is similar in that
doesn't
if you
draw
open
any better,
Vectorworks, say 2013, 2012, 2011 project, or any file, right? Any file that was created with the prior version. It will automatically upgrade it to the current version. So right now it's 2014. So if you open a 2012 file in 2014, it will upgrade it. What's nice about it is it tells you that, and it says it's going to save a new version of that file in the new, in the new format. So it'll keep your old one, but it'll create a new file that's a 20 and label it with 2014. So that it's a 2014 file. But if you make changes to that, if you're using 2012, you can't open that 2014 file. You're screwed.
Right.
At that point. Right. So in that case, it's very similar to this.
You have to call up the person that sent it to you, or you got to go to somebody else's machine and say, hey, save this down for me.
Right. But you can't. You're saying you can't do that in Revit.
Can't do it in Revit. You can do it in
AutoCAD.
CAD,
You can't do
it
that.
in Revit.
In fact, one of the
yeah. But still, if you open a 2010 file in 2014 and save it and forget to, and then you go back and try to open it back up in 2010.
Yeah, you just got to resave it.
Won't. You just have to resave it. You have to resave it down.
That's why I use draft site will do any of that. It's free.
Well, one of the features AutoCAD does have, though, is you can set the preference to say, I've got AutoCAD 14, and I can say, okay, yeah, every time I use this, save down to 2010 and make that the standard. In fact, that's a feature they just added, I think, in AutoCAD. No, wait. In AutoCAD 2014 for Mac, they just added that preference. Before,
I honestly,
you could save down, but you had to do it manually. There was no way. There was no preference setting.
There wasn't a preference.
No,
okay.
There was no preference setting in the Mac version.
On PC, it's been around for a while.
Yeah. What's nice though about AutoCAD is they only change the format every 3 years. So if you're using AutoCAD, 2014, an AutoCAD 2012 will still open that file. It only changes like every 3 years.
I don't like the Mac version.
Really?
It's the only reason I don't like the Mac version is because I'm so used to the PC version.
Right.
It's completely different.
It is.
Yeah, but don't you just use the keyboard shortcuts, or are you a
No, I'm an icon
You're
person.
an
Really?
icon guy?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're slow. You're slow then. Forget. I don't want to hire you.
I guarantee that I'm faster than anybody else in my office.
Wow. I use the keyboard commands.
I'm actually pretty fast. Here's
what Cormac does. You click the icon, and then you hit the little print icon, and then you redline the shit out of the drawing. You say, "Look how much faster I am than you."
No. No.
Nice.
AutoCAD. I can do AutoCAD blindfolded. Revit, I'm getting a lot better at.
Wow. I
still haven't done a complete model out of it. I've done a lot of interior work, like all the drafting, stuff like that.
I like Revit so much better.
I do if it can be done, if it can be used right. It's just I hate it's not that I hate Revit. It's I hate the bullshit excuses that Revit seems to offer up to people who don't know what the hell they're doing. It's like, well, that's the way Revit draws it.
Well, everything's customizable.
No, you mean you can't close a corner, you can't join a wall.
Yeah, most of the time you can.
Oh no, that's the way that Revit draws it that way because this is a column and that's a this and that's a that. So you're saying that I should live with my drawings looking like that.
That's the way the world's going, right there, my friend. The drawing is not
like, well,
a product.
all we'll do is we'll do a masking region over it. So the model will still be wrong, but our drawings will look
there are
right.
limitations to a 2-dimensional representation versus a 3D model.
Well, okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
Not really. Because everything that you draw in 2D, it's intentional. It's not modeled, sure. But if you're building off of 2D drawings, everything in the 2D drawing means something.
Yeah.
If you're modeling it and you're relying on the model to be your 2D drawings and the model isn't up to par for what you're trying to create, then you sit there and you draw all this shit. You model it all up. It's not right. So now you have to go back in again and kind of draw over the top of it to make it look right. So you're doubling up the work that otherwise you could have gotten it done.
It's a wash.
It's a one and done. Not for me. I mean,
it is because you're not coordinating all those drawings together.
all of my plans are coordinated because I use layer management, and all I do is I draw. And I just draw over the top of things. All of my RCPs and everything else now. I limit it to I'm the only one who can work on it. But whatever. If you don't know what the hell you're doing, get out of my drawing anyway.
Yeah, that doesn't work in a big office.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting to hear you say that, Cormac, because that's exactly the sort of frustration I'm encountering in my chosen tool right now, which is Vectorworks. And I'm working on this second story addition for this house. So I modeled it, right? And I'm like, okay, great. I have this model. I'm trying to generate my elevations from it. But, things just I don't know how to model it well enough, but there's just certain things that just don't come out right. And, or just don't look right. And I actually took the model and shot elevations of it, right? Kind of like saved a view of it so I could use it as a background. And then I drew over the top.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I can't, like, for instance, now this is just my own lack of knowledge. There's some fake shutters on this house. It's an old 70s house. It's got these shutters on it. And, I didn't have, cause like I can select the window and I can say, yeah, there's shutters here, and it'll show a shutter. Great. I can even show multiple types of shutters, right? But for the life of me, I couldn't get the exact shutter, the style of shutter that's on this house. Now, if I knew a little bit more about the program, maybe I could have made one and had it inserted so that it would be part of the collection of different shutters I could have chosen, but I don't know that yet. And so it's like, okay.
Well, a lot of that stuff you have to make it yourself. I mean, that's true with
We
any
Is that right?
CAD program, whether it's SketchUp or AutoCAD or anything. You got to make all that stuff. And that's really the killer, I think, of any of these programs, is because you're trying to just choose one, right? Every architect out there is trying to just get away with choosing one. And I don't think people put much thought into that library situation is a big deal. Yeah. And so that's really, I think, why Revit and SketchUp have taken over the industry, right? Because SketchUp has the Google warehouse, or whatever it is now, the Trimble warehouse.
Right.
And they have their extension manager built right into the system now. And then you've got Revit that has Autodesk Seek behind it. It has RevitCity.com. It has these sites where there's these enormous collections of a bunch of junk, but there is a lot of good stuff. And the manufacturers.
You go to every manufacturer. Every manufacturer has a family that you can download.
And man, they're shitty, but there's...
Oh, yeah, but...
They're a starting point, right? That's going to save you a ton of time up front.
Right.
And if you get to the point where you are doing the smart keying and linking it to like the e-specs and all that other stuff, and you're using, like say you're using Conier's curtain wall system as your basis of design, and you actually use their system and you tag it like that, then all of your details, I don't know how you guys do it. We don't do it, but I really wish we would. And that's when we, do all of our wall sections and stuff, include the spec section number.
Yeah.
I mean, we break it down like, by division. It's like, division 5, 7, 9, whatever, but I really, I've seen some really good looking, smart, sets of drawings that include spec sections. Not on the drawings, but just that detail reference, if it's copper flashing, it's gonna, reference the area in the spec that, the copper flashing spec, kind of thing. So
the shortest makes my head hurt.
Well, it's complicated, right? And I mean, there's people that I've done consulting with, people who had changed their mind 8 different times on what they're going to use. And the whole time they're agonizing over what to choose. They could have been drawing stuff. I honestly, I think this is a good topic to talk about, because architects all struggle with this technology stuff, because it is their livelihood at this point. And they don't, I don't know how to say this. It's like they don't want to actually do the work it takes to create a system for themselves. And the whole office has to rely on that system. I mean, you deal with this, Neil, right? I mean, you finally honed in on something, but it took you a while, right, to pick one.
You mean as far as like a CAD system to work with?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had to limit myself in that. I mean, I'm only going to choose a Mac-based solution. So Revit's off the table for me because I'm not. I mean, we have a lot of friends on Twitter that use Revit and they'll use it on their Macs. You yourself, Evan, will use it in Parallels or in Boot Camp, and it's like, you know what? I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay in my Mac environment the whole time. I don't want to deal with Windows. And so, that instantly eliminates that program from my choosing list if I'm going to stick to that. So I've got to go with a Mac native application. And so, that made me have to consider, really, in my view, there's two big options out there, and that's Vectorworks and or Archicad. And those are the two programs really. Now there's several others out there. In fact, I know for a lot of residential work that, what's that name of that program?
Chief Architect?
Chief. Yeah. Chief is very popular. And I believe they have a Mac version now. So,
yeah, they do. That's another BIM app.
Isn't that more of a 2D app though?
Nope, not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay. Well, I stand corrected. They've made some changes, but,
I heard it's pretty great.
Okay.
I haven't looked at it myself, but I have looked at their website and looked at some videos and stuff.
Right.
And it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
It looks like it's really intuitive, I think.
What is that one?
Chief Architect.
Chief. It's very popular with some interior designers I know. But yeah, it's a tough, it is Mac and Windows now. So, and it does have the BIM quality or the 3D now. So,
well, it's a whole smart model, it's BIM.
The thing that I like about Archicad that's different from Revit is Archicad evolved from its 2D form to where it is now,
that's the other way around. You're thinking Vectorworks.
No.
Vectorworks started as Minicad as a 2D only, but Archicad was always 3D.
But what I'm saying is it didn't have the full BIM
it didn't have
that we have now.
No, it didn't.
It's been around forever.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying is that so users who were using, Archicad, the 3D modeling and all of that other stuff, they were used to it. And so when they integrated all of the BIM aspects to it, they were still essentially using just a newer version of the same stuff they've been using.
Right.
A lot of people who jumped into the Revit, short, deep end of the pool, whatever you want to call it. They Autodesk. I will definitely say that AutoCAD, and this is purely my own opinion. AutoCAD is actually a really good drafting tool. It's got some good tools, and you can crank out drawings really fast. I mean, even though I use icons, Evan. And use key commands. I actually learned how to, my very first drafting program was MicroStation.
Me too.
And it was
I can't say that, but.
And that MicroStation was icon based.
Yeah.
So I was so used to doing that I just learned quickly where all of the icons for AutoCAD was, and just kind of kept going with it. I mean, I slowly but surely started to learn all of the shortcut commands, and I kind of use them both at the same time. So I'm like keying something in, then clicking one, and then just.
I can't find anything on an icon in AutoCAD. I only use keyboard.
Well,
but I also started with MicroStation, and that's why I liked it. I liked how it was icon driven, and that's how Form Z was, and they kind of really went well together back when I was in college, and MicroStation was even on the Mac.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So not anymore, right? But
no,
it was a great CAD program. I mean, I'm sure it still is.
It is, and now it's BIM,
me.
and it evolved into the BIM. The thing is that, I mean, and I know a lot of civil engineers love it, use it still to this day.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the largest civil engineering firms in the state of Maryland, who also happens to be the go-to firm that we use, they convert all of their stuff from MicroStation to AutoCAD so that we can bring it in. So, and which kind of kills me because we're doing everything in Revit, and, we're getting like the third version of it when we bring it into Revit, because it's, it goes from MicroStation to AutoCAD now to Revit.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing. Everybody has their own favorites, and at least they all talk to each other. That's one thing I have on my Get Method site is I have a cheat sheet and it isn't all inclusive of all these different BIM programs, because I don't have the time to test all that out for all you lazy architects. But, I don't have MicroStation on there. I have AutoCAD on there, but, they all do talk to each other. Every one of these programs talks to each other. Unfortunately, all of the really good things about each program don't get transferred, right? And that's kind of where the strengths and weaknesses get picked between why someone might like to use Revit or someone might like to use ArchiCAD or Vectorworks, is they all kind of have their own way of doing things, and to each their own, right? There's pros and cons. They all kind of do the same thing, but they all do it a little bit differently. And, but when you do translate from one to the other, you do lose some of that special sauce that each one of them has. So, but at least you can get your civils MicroStation drawings in, and you can get your AutoCAD drawings in as backgrounds, and you can spit everything out as AutoCAD, and or throw it into SketchUp, or bring something in from SketchUp or Form Z or whatever. I mean, it's all doable.
See, I haven't actually. I mean, I used SketchUp and AutoCAD a lot together. Yeah. But as of right now, I have yet to use Revit and SketchUp together.
Well, I can give you kind of my procedure of how I do it. Is I model everything in our office. Most of the designers are using SketchUp, but I use Form Z. We have some Bonsai users too. But we always start in a program like that. We never start in Revit. And there's a bunch of religious Revit folks in the office who say, why don't you use Revit for everything? And I honestly don't want to use Revit for everything. I don't want to sell my soul to that. And I know that they've made great strides in that with Vasari and with lots of cool stuff. And actually ArchiCAD has done the same thing. And in their most recent release, they've got a bunch of cool new morph tools and interesting modeling tools to make it more easy to create conceptual design in. And the nice thing about parametric modeling programs like ArchiCAD and Revit is that it is so easy to modify things. That's actually, I've heard where the name Revit comes from, because it was short for revise it, because it's designed to be able to make changes, right? With all this stuff, because in the old days, we would, like you said, you either draw over it or you would start over all the time. So at least now with the parametrics, you can change wall thicknesses and heights, and you can change the makeup of the wall, and you can change the dimensions between the walls. I love that kind of stuff.
Or the color of the brick, even.
Yeah, it's great, right? Yeah. But it's cumbersome to do conceptual design in. You can't work fast. And that's why so many people, and the other reason people love SketchUp or Form Z is because of just the graphic quality of the presentation that you can get out of it is pretty easy to digest for especially people who don't understand architectural drawings, right? For clients. But so we always start there, and then we understand the project more and more, right? That's the process we go through, is we understand more and more, and we add more detail here, and we make changes there, and we kind of know that everything's in flux up to a certain point. And then what I do is I make that model available to whoever's drawing it in Revit, because then we make the jump to Revit, but we start over at that point. And I don't know what your guys' procedure at that point is, but we don't take a model in and draw on top of it. We actually start from scratch in Revit so that we don't make the same mistakes we've already made, because there's a lot of mistakes in conceptual models, especially if you're using SketchUp. The geometry is not good. It never is good. There's always problems with the geometry unless you're, a seasoned professional. I'll say that.
Right.
But we always start over because now Revit forces you to think about things differently. It forces you to think like, how is this building actually going to get built? And that's a great way to build a model in BIM, is to think about it, how the building's going to get built, and start at the bottom and work your way up. And you have to make modifications along the way, but you're always referencing that conceptual model for design intent throughout the process. And I think that's a great way to go. I don't like the idea of doing everything in one program and having to revise it 20 times. I just kind of cringe every time you do a major revision on a model, knowing that it's screwing something up somewhere. Everybody knows those warning boxes that pop up in Revit. And everybody who always ignores those, right, in the office who's working on the project, it can become a nightmare later on. It can really slow the whole model down.
So now I had, let me throw that little horror story in there of something that recently happened. So now I have 6 people working on this one high school project because it's short. The short schedule, I've got to turn it around really fast. I've got basically a month and a half now to get, bid documents done, and we're, at whatever stage we're at. And so, and
20% CDs.
Well, now we're probably somewhere around about 60, 65-ish.
62.3, actually. I just checked.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
You audited the model.
I did.
Thanks. Can you join all those damn
through
walls?
the Autodesk cloud service? Yeah, but I paid $1,400 a year.
So I've got all these people work on it, and everybody's like picking up red lines, this, that, and the other, and I basically yelled across the office, please pin the work, because I'm looking at all I was doing in the model was just looking at things. I was just checking to make sure that certain things have been picked up. So I'm flipping through, and I'm like, why does this look weird? Sure enough, a floor that's been there for months is now gone, and everything that was attached to that floor is gone with it.
I never use those locks or pins or anything.
Oh,
they're a nightmare because of that.
I'm now making them pin stuff that is never going to move again. I'm now
says
making
you,
huh?
Yeah. Says
you, says me, yes, but
all right, for me, who's has no idea what
walls
you're
and
talking
floors
about,
are disappearing for no reason.
Is pinning like locking it so that it doesn't move?
Yeah,
it's like locking an element.
Okay,
yes.
All right, thank you.
And you can just do like one thing, like a text box, or you can do like the entire structural model or something. You can pin it so that it doesn't go anywhere. It'll pop up with a dialog box, basically sitting there saying, the element you're trying to delete is locked.
Right.
If you'd like to delete it, first think about it, because you really shouldn't.
Well, I think these are just the growing pains that you kind of go through. You'll probably get to a point where you won't have to do that anymore.
True. Well,
I mean, it's like drawing on the right work set, or it's like, I had a similar situation where I was working on a new elementary school, and every day I went into the model, a 3-story set of stairs was gone. Because for the exact same reason, somebody wanted to they kept wanting to modify this one thing, and they were locked together, right? And so every day I'd go in there and I'd have to remake that set of stairs. And it was not a simple thing to do.
No. Yeah.
And it's a crazy thing. The other huge growing pain that we had was we had a different department, our interior architecture department, which is on a different floor. And there was a bunch of people in that department who didn't know Revit. And what they would do is they'd just open up the model, look around.
Oh, that's not supposed to be there.
And close it. No, they would just close it, right? But guess what happens when you open up any view in Revit, right? You own it.
Yeah.
And so then what would happen is we'd be up there drawing away, and all of a sudden I can't get into this elevation sheet. Well, somebody so-and-so got into that sheet and didn't sync with central.
And they didn't relinquish.
They didn't relinquish their elements, their view in this case, right? And so it's like, okay, now you have to call them down. I need you to open it back up. And because they just think of it like AutoCAD. And I think one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of people with trying any new program is everybody thinks of that new program like they think about the other one that they already know.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's a big deal. I mean, we have to go into these with an open mind, and we can't feel stupid asking questions. How do you do this in this program? But there's a lot of things like that you would never even think to ask.
I do know that if you hit Z space E space, that it does actually zoom extends.
Yes, it does.
I was just like, holy shit, it works. Because I completely forgot that I was in Revit, and I was like,
you just hit ZE.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all 2-letter keyboard shortcuts instead of single.
Yeah.
Or single and double.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, this works. Great. It's probably the only one that I have yet to actually bother to learn any of the, I'm just trying to figure out, all right, how do I put text in here?
Yeah.
Annotate.
The other weird thing I had was, I was working on a performing arts building. It had this giant wall that kind of went down, bisected the theater from the lobby. Mm-hmm. And there were all these floors kind of attached to that wall, right? And somebody in our interiors department opens it up, goes in there, and they're looking around, and they didn't know that if you select something like a wall and hit the space bar, that the wall flips orientation automatically, right? So doors do this, walls do this. There's different elements where you can just tap the space bar. And when a floor is locked, when an edge of a floor is locked to an element like a wall, and you flip it, it shot these spikes off like 2 miles out. And I go to open the model, and I hit like ZE, right? And it's like, where's my model go?
Yeah, it's like this little speck. It's this teeny little speck in this
little dot, right? And so you're scrolling, trying to get back in there, and everything is just mangled. Looks good. Start over. And you got to walk down there with your head hung low.
It's like Tom Main.
Are we making our lives too complicated?
Well, look, no. Honestly, there's.
It depends who you ask.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, as much as I fought and complained and all that other stuff, really, once you've got to just close your eyes and jump in. Well, actually, no, you got to keep your eyes wide open because you got to pay attention to what you're doing. But.
Well, there was a recent article, and I need to look up where I saw it, but it was is BIM taking the art out of architecture? Did you guys see that one?
No,
but
that's BS.
It is, because it's a tool. It's
a tool,
just a drawing tool.
Yeah,
and you know what? It will. I mean, if Evan, you are a great example. I mean, you are, you're a project designer, right? And you're sitting there.
That's a fine title, sure.
I guess, whatever.
Depends what firm you're at.
You the bitch boy.
CAD monkey, right?
No, I mean, so you're sitting there and you're doing all of these different sketches and everything else. And so, now you start to model it and all this other stuff. I mean, now it can actually legitimize what you're working on. It can help you kind of visualize some things. I mean, it's a good tool, whether it's SketchUp, whether it's, Revit, whether it's AutoCAD. I mean, all of these are just tools to help you visualize. I mean, we honestly, to, shed a tear that I have over not building physical models. We've stopped building physical models in our office. I mean, I don't remember the last time a physical model's been built in that office.
Must be sad.
I probably was the last one to build it. Like, probably
you could change that,
Oh, I know.
Not going to do it.
Yes. When I get a project in October and they say, oh, and it's going to bid in January, yeah, I'll get right on that model.
Yeah.
As long as that model is in a little box called Revit.
It's too bad interns don't know how to build models anymore.
Oh my God. They're like, so I actually did not too long ago. I guess I can kind of scratch that last statement. I did build like a little small model just to kind of look at a space that I was trying to work out. And they were just like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm making a model of this space. They're like, you know, the only models that we ever, they're like looking at me just, you know.
But it's not on a 2-dimensional LCD screen. I can't.
Well, or they're just like, you know.
Does not compute.
They're just like, you know, we don't have a CNC machine or you know, like the laser cutter and all this other stuff. And all they basically did was they like, you know, did like the laser cutter that printed out whatever the 2D thing they did in CAD, and all they did was just glue the corners together.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're like, wow. I mean, sure, that's awesome. But, I mean, wow, really?
Yeah.
and then I get these just things, you know, oh, I really wish that I could learn how to sketch like you. Shit, grab a sketchbook and a pencil and just do it. Yeah. You know, it's not that hard.
Stop watching TV at night and start sketching.
Stop sending me links of all these torrents that you've downloaded, you know, or friggin' these freetv.coms and stuff like that, you know, where where you sit there and you watch all of these episodes of something on where you stream it from someplace in Timbuktu.
Well, hey, I have a question. And I'd like to hear what both of you guys think about this. So that article was on Architosh.com, and it was how BIM is crushing the art from architecture and how to stop it. So maybe we can put a link to that in the show notes if people want to read it. But kind of on that same vein is one thing that I've noticed is that it seems like people who are, and I had this question asked to me, you know, how can I get into design? From somebody in one of our offices, you know, because they see design coming from certain places in the firm and not from others. And so I want to get in on that. And I guess, you know, one of my responses to him in the conversation was that, you know, I honestly think you can find design. It doesn't matter which part of the project you're working on. You can find something to design. And his response after that was he totally got it, but I don't think enough people think that way. I feel like we are in such a production efficiency, numbers driven world in our offices, in architects' offices across the country or around the world, to where so much of picking up red marks is mindless work. When there is so much opportunity to be thinking about the lines we're putting on the page, and they happen to be digital lines, but they still have to mean something, and they could mean something different depending on who's working on it, right? I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there that people aren't seeing, that where they can contribute in a very meaningful, designful way on a project, working on details, especially working on details. But all kinds of stuff, flooring patterns. It doesn't matter what it is. But this also goes to project managers who use spreadsheets all the time to track all these hours, right? It's to me is, again, are we just mindlessly putting numbers in the robot? Or are we actually thinking about what those numbers mean and the work that we're doing and responding to how we work versus some idealized bean counter's way of doing things that's invaded its way into our practice? I mean, what do you guys think about that?
That is that's a lot, man.
I know it
is.
But
I was going to say, you know, your first point about design, I think you're absolutely right. There's design in all phases and all aspects of a project. I mean, one of the things I enjoyed, and early on when we first started moving away from drafting by hand to on the computer was, now instead of, back when we did things by hand, when you first started to lay out a sheet, you had to kind of think, okay, how big is this plan? How tall are the elevations, and where is all this stuff going to maybe fit on the sheet, right? So you had to start drawing, and have you guys ever had to erase? If you remember the old pre-printed vellum sheets, right? They had that big fat, 1/8-inch wide border going around them. How often did you ever have to erase part of that because a part of your drawing literally went outside of the margin or into your title block because you couldn't move it? And so one of the, more interesting things with dealing with CAD is that, okay, we don't have to deal with that now. It's like, oh, okay, it's too big. Oh, change the scale, or if that doesn't work, oh, just move it over. Oh, we'll just move that whole thing to another sheet. The only way we did that before was we had to make a Xerox copy of it onto a sticky back and literally paste it on another sheet. That was, or somewhere else on a sheet, right? That was the only way you did it. So CAD gives us the freedom to design even the layout and how the building looks on a sheet. I know a lot of architects that we communicate with on Twitter take a lot of pride in just even how their title blocks are designed, and how the drawings look. I know Nicholas, he's real big on how his drawings look and how the whole thing lays out, and he's done a fantastic job. And he's shared some of the things he's done with me, and his drawings look beautiful. And to me, that may not affect the actual construction of the house, or maybe it does because the guys can actually read the drawings. But to me,
exactly, and that's the point.
I like that. I like being able to design the layout, and maybe that's kind of the graphic design, person in me. I enjoy that part. It's like once it's drawn, I get to decide how it gets laid out and how it looks. And that was something I know when I was, managing projects and had, 3 or 4 people working for me. I cared about that a lot. And so, but it's hard to get an intern or somebody who's really new to really understand that. So the way I would phrase it to them is the plans have to be readable, in talking things about line weights and things like that, or just how the sheet is organized. Because oftentimes when somebody's new, that, because you can see things on the computer so well and the colors really stand out, but then when you print it, it's all black and white, and sometimes things go right over the top and you can't read it, but it looks fine on the screen. Or they just don't see it on the screen. So my argument to them, or not really argument, the way I phrased it was these have to be readable for the people in the field. And so we want to make sure that we lay out the sheets in a logical manner so that people can understand it.
Right.
So to me, that was design, right? It's maybe not the building design, but to me, I enjoyed that. So, but speaking to the other part, that you were bringing up about, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but I'll kick it back to you, Clark, because I want to come back to this.
Let's go again. Let's go back to what you were saying, Evan. There is, in fact, an old firm of mine, they used to preach that design is in every phase, that they're not architects, they're designers, which always kind of annoyed me, is that, they thought that they were separate kind of like disciplines or focus, which I never really agreed with. I felt like, an architect is a designer, and design is part of every part of, of an architect's job. Whether it's literally starting from the contracts to the way that you put together the model, the way you put together your drawings. Even the way you go out and you do CA. CA is design, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to ensure that all of the effort and all of the work that you put together on your conceptual design through your construction documents, that all of it comes out and is built the way that you were hoping it was going to be built. Or even using that as a tool to figure out a better way to do it the next time you use a detail or something like that. But to what you were talking about, Neil, with the layout of the drawings, I mean, I'm hugely anal about the way that I lay out my drawings because, again, I say this a lot, we're building off of 2D drawings. These drawings have got to be clear, concise, and readable. If you do I kind of call it the shotgun method of drawing, where you basically just, put as much crap on there, it's just and just craps all over the drawings. I mean, does this detail really need to be here? I mean, why do you have a plan detail on an enlarged, on a overall floor plan? I mean, why is this here? Why is that there? I mean, we needed this information and the call out is right here, so why not put it on there? It's, let's make it all logical. Let's work through it so that they can, instead of stuffing so much stuff onto one sheet, you can actually, clean all that stuff off, make it clear, make it understandable. So in the end, make it buildable.
Yeah. I think there's lots of opportunity for what, we kind of make the distinction between capital D design and little d design. Capital D design is very fashionable and look at me and look what I did. And, but little d design is what really matters, I think.
I agree with you. Because everybody wants to be the big D design. They want their face in the magazine, ooh, look at me, I made architectural record. Well,
Yeah, the big D design is for other architects. The little d design is for your actual clients.
Yeah, exactly. That's a fantastic way to put it because, it's like, it goes back to, when we were in the office talking about, the website, and everybody had their ideas and their input on what the new website should look like. And I kept coming back to him saying, everything that you're talking about is just creating a fashion show. It's
for other architects, right?
It's to show off to other architects. Ooh, look at me. Look what I've done. But that's not our audience. That's not who we're trying to, inform by our website. Our website is either for current clients that we hope to continue to have as clients, or new clients that don't know us from Jack. It's showing them who we are and what we are, making it easy for them to understand who we are and what we are.
In the stuff that you and I do, I don't think this really maybe applies. Maybe it does a little bit to residential, but something that we were talking about around the office last week was that our clients are really our clients, right? They're the kids in these schools. And those are the people that we have to create the environment for. And there's so many times when we're stuck in a problem because we're trying to solve it for a teacher or an administrator, instead of the actual people who are using the school for what it's been built for. And trying to please them is really difficult because they've had these opinions for so long and they want to get their say. But really what really matters is creating the environment for the kids who are learning there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing goes for, like you're talking about with our presentations, with our websites. You have to speak directly to them. And I think we lose a lot of people in that. I know we're kind of getting away from that.
Well, I want to circle back around to what we started talking about with the BIM and the technology side of it, because I think one thing we didn't really cover when we first started talking about this is, although Evan, you allude to it, you talk about using the right tool for the job and how you use SketchUp early in your projects because you do just throw it away. And I know one of the things that I wanted to not do is exactly what you described.
Yeah, I remember you bringing that up, and to me, it didn't make sense when you.
Well, and
I get where you're coming from, but it doesn't make sense practically for me because of how just the way we work. It's like a study model.
Sure, and I'm coming around to that thinking, because
interesting.
As I dive more deeply into, trying to do projects, what you said earlier in the podcast was how, Revit in your case, you have to build it from the ground up, and you have to, really think about how it's put together. And the hard
you don't
part,
have to. I choose to.
Well, no, but
I should say that.
I think you're right, because I think the idea of BIM, and we may get some people that disagree with us, and we'd love to have your comments. But
well, yeah, there's 5 ways to do everything. So
I do feel that when you're trying to
500,
that's
right.
Yeah, probably. Every person you talk to will have a different opinion, but I think in general, what I'm discovering is that when you have to get down to that level of detail so early in a project, it becomes paralyzing. Or you have to make so many decisions very early on, you can't really move forward. And so you do have to kind of start to strip away some of the BIM aspects so that you can just let your mind free and think a little bit more. And I think, and this is kind of what I wanted to get back to, which is using that right tool. But, and it kind of goes to what I said earlier about, are we making things a little too complicated? And I think maybe we're not making them too complicated, but using the wrong tool at the wrong time is making our lives more difficult than it needs to be.
Well, there's this interesting little phenomenon too going on. And it's something that we've done to ourselves. And the clients have now come, in fact, not just the clients we have, but the clients we will have all kind of come to expect us to, and I'm just going to craft this term that I just popped into my head, premature renderation, where they're expecting that you walk into that very first conceptual meeting with a completed rendering. With, I want to see the pretty pictures. I want to see the eye candy and stuff. And we don't teach them the process or talk to them about the process where we shouldn't be doing all of that detail. We shouldn't be doing all of this stuff so early on in kind of getting hammered into, a design that isn't 100% flushed out before, we do this final presentation of saying, okay, this is what your building's going to look like. A great example is this crazy high school project that I'm working on that, we had to, before we really had a chance to even understand the building and the scope of the building, we had to present to the Board of Education, basically our plan of what we're going to do to reskin this. So we got locked into something that, one, we probably weren't married to, and two, it was not even flushed out. And so then basically we're having to work backwards to make the stuff that we've already shown them work. And, and it's ridiculous that we get, put in that position, because that's not the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work where you show them, what Evan's talking about. You basically, you start with the massing model. You start to pull it apart. You start to massage it a bit. It starts to inform what it wants to do. And, do I want to try this space, and mass it up, and you're like, oh no, wait, no, that space isn't going to work like that. And have those opportunities for those, ahas and moments, and then, but clients are expecting stuff so quickly, and the problem is that we're obliging them. And it's not that, we aren't, we shouldn't facilitate helping them with a vision. But a lot of times, if they're trying to, if they're a developer and they're trying to market, their next development, and this is what it's going to look like, it's just like, okay, Neil, give me 5 designs, and you're just like, and, oh yeah, but I need it by tomorrow. You're like, and then you just for some reason say, okay, and then you give them, 5 little pieces of eye candy, and then you spend the entire time now having to work backwards in making it work. rather than saying, give me a little while, let's think about this, let's talk it through, let's really analyze it together as both client and architect to make sure this is exactly what you want. It's like, no, I want it now.
Well, I think the perfect world is somewhere in between there, right? Because the realities are that what your second scenario almost never happens because there's realities that go into any project in timelines. So, but then the first part of your project or first part of your description, is unfortunately the unrealistic and too often reality that happens. So, but I want to ask you guys another question because, BIM and technology, it's a big thing. There was a long or maybe a shorter transition from hand drafting to computer drafting. But now we've got a lot of firms, and I'm thinking maybe more smaller firms, not firms, like what you work for, Evan, they're big, have multiple offices and things. But I'm thinking, the majority of the architects out there, right? They're the smaller firms, less than 10 people, that are doing a lot of work. And maybe the majority of the work out there, right? And so, I mean, how do those firms deal with moving from now, they've kind of maybe mastered CAD, right? They're not super proficient at it, but hey, they get lines on paper, plans go out. They've built up a library over time. And now we're seeing this, shift again to more of this, BIM world. And I use BIM in a very, very broad sense. There's a lot
Microsoft Excel is a BIM tool.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, BIM in a very broad sense. It's models with linking information and just, creating your elevations and plans all maybe in 3D from the beginning. So, I mean, using that, there's a lot of smaller firms out there that, have a long-standing established, method of drawing that, they've been doing for 10 or 15 years now.
Yeah. And they're faced with throwing that all away.
Exactly. And the problem you have is in some of these firms, they've laid off everybody. Okay. There's maybe one or two people left and maybe they're starting to build back up, but they don't have the time or the money or maybe even the projects to now throw all of that away and say, okay, we're going to just go invest in, a different type of solution. How do those firms deal with that? Because it's a very difficult, thing. I mean, they're either going to die out with the people that work there, but that's another 10 or 15 years out from now, or do they decide to shift and change, because not a lot of smaller firms have kind of a succession plan in place. A lot of 3 to 5 people type firms, they're going to die out when that owner retires. So maybe there's not a lot of emphasis for those owners to say, you know what, in 5 years or within the next decade, I'm retiring. I'm hitting 70, 75. I'm done. And, the firm's going to close up and everybody worked there will move on. Right. I mean, I kind of described, a friend of mine, earlier and if that portion is in our podcast, once you edit it out or edit everything together, he's been there for 18 years and the guy's older and he's, slowing down and the firm is therefore slowing down. And so what happens to those firms and what happens to the people working there that have been there for 15 to 20 years that haven't had that, advantage of getting introduced to some of these newer technologies? Because the firms, we all want to, right? I mean, we see this stuff. We all are kind of computer people.
I don't think so.
We want to maybe try and use it.
I don't think so.
But we don't have the time.
Maybe people like the idea, but of course you have the time. I don't have any sympathy for people who say they don't have the time for this kind of stuff.
Okay.
I just don't. And that's maybe my own viewpoint. I mean, I know there's some people like me out there, but I feel like I'm always learning and I always want to be learning. And if you go to my website and you look at the stuff that I'm trying out, I'm I'm doing that on my own time because I have to, because that's the kind of person I am. I like to tinker with that stuff, but I also like to use it, and I like to be valuable to myself. I like to be valuable to my firm, and they're not investing that money into me, but they're not going to. They've got other priorities, like keeping the doors open and keeping people employed. So honestly, there's so many tools out there that can do the stuff you talked about that don't cost a lot of money.
Right.
But you seriously have to stop watching your shows at night and do it. You can go to community college. When I was teaching Revit at community college here, I had people in their 60s and 70s in my class because they were saying the same things you are. I'm obsolete, but I can't be. I have to put food on the table, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. You can't just sit around and complain about it.
Right.
Well,
SketchUp does what you're talking about. SketchUp does elevations and plans and everything off of a 3D model. It comes with a layout program. It's $590. One-time fee, no subscription.
Right.
Form Z does it too.
Yeah, I don't think the cost is really,
I think a lot of people think there's a cost.
Oh, there's not.
The cost is the learning.
The cost is the learning and establishing the drawing methods and standards that you're going to need to generate your plans.
But see, it's not
cost,
really that...
even something, we were looking up Revit earlier, right? I mean, the desktop version was only $3,400 and change. The more expensive subscription based sort of annual thing was, or fancier with the cloud stuff was $7,000 something. But if you think about it, I mean, if even AutoCAD at $4,000, I mean, what do you have to do? 1, 2 projects? That's paid for,
and
right?
See, a lot of people don't look at that.
It's not a lot of money.
But a lot of people don't look at that return on their investment. They just see the straight out-of-pocket cost.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I had to...
You're right, Cormac, but
you
at the end of the day, seriously, how are you getting your damn work done?
I totally
Are you
agree
generating
with you.
it with a pencil and a paper? Or
you can. Why not?
Well, okay, fine. But you're not, right? So you're drawing it on the computer, and you sign that first, remodel job or that first edition job, and yeah, maybe it doesn't quite cover the cost of your software, but maybe it does, right? And so suddenly you just have the ability to get your work done. Pay for the damn software.
Well, then there's
and do it, right?
But then there's always let's look at what is the right tool for the right job. I mean, if you're talking about, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do like a small little 1-bedroom addition to, to a house or something like that, is a $7,000 piece of software the right thing? Because you're honestly, if you did the job right, you would be spending a lot of time modeling the existing conditions and all that other stuff and going through all of that process. And your fees aren't going to merit, spending $8,000, $7,000 on that big of, on that software when you're really not, when you don't need it. And so a lot of people are hesitant to move on to something like that because that's if you're like a sole practitioner and you're doing just, houses, an addition here and there, they're probably convincing themselves, they're trying to talk themselves out of buying, Revit because they can't justify the cost because they've got, their fees are so low. But, I look at it in a different way, because here you are, you may just be doing smaller projects and stuff, but now you've got a program that will help you and give you the ability to do bigger projects if you so choose, probably quicker and more efficiently if you actually, just jumped in and did it, jumped in and learned. Evan, you were talking about...
There's great resources out there on the web to teach you how to use this stuff. I mean, I'll teach you how to use this stuff. I like teaching people how to use it.
Nobody's taught me how to use it. I jump in there and I learn how to use it myself. No one ever taught me how to use MicroStation. No one ever taught me how to use SketchUp. No one ever taught me how to use AutoCAD or Revit. And I'm actually, other than Revit, I'll go ahead and throw that out there, I'm pretty damn good at every one of the other ones. I mean,
Yeah, but you're just a project manager. Don't you just meet with people and do spreadsheets?
I wish.
I can tell you there are a lot of people out there who are project managers who, getting back to something you said earlier, Neil, about, or maybe it was you, Cormac, saying, I want the pretty renderings up front. And there are so many people who are negotiating our contracts saying, yeah, we can do that, because they have no clue what it takes to actually do the work.
Right.
Because they're completely removed from doing any of these things. And it's by their choice that they're doing that. And I'm sure they say the same thing. You know, I don't have time to learn how to do that stuff. It's not the best use of my time, which maybe that's true, but also like walk around your office and see what it actually takes to produce these things, so that you can make these informed decisions when someone asks for something. And you don't have to just say yes. You can say, well, that's going to take this much effort, and here's what we can do in 2 days.
You know, one of my favorite things is when somebody asks you, hey, can you do this real quick? And so they stand over you watching you do it.
Oh, man, that's an instant way to make me work really slow.
And they're just like, well, why isn't it going any faster? It can't.
Are you calling me an it?
It's just, they're like, come on, this is...
Where's the easy button?
We're spending all of this money on this program, and you can't get it done any faster? I could probably sketch it out faster. Well, sure you could, but it's not going to be accurate. It's not going to be, it won't have materials applied to it, or this, that, or the other. I mean, it's people think, and yes, and I simplified it earlier by saying, it's just a tool. And yes, it is just a tool, but it's a tool that takes time. And in fact, actually, that's something that a lot of firms are still trying to use the old model of the, time that, schematic design takes is just, like a really small section of time. Then design development's just a little bit longer. And then boom, everything is in, construction documents.
CDs, yeah. No,
and
that doesn't work.
And it doesn't work that way with
BIM anymore.
Because,
no. Well, yeah, that gets back to what I was saying earlier, where Revit forces you to make a lot of these decisions early, and so you spend more time there.
But see, you should, but you need to have the owners, or the clients.
Yes,
really
it's a culture change.
Because a lot of the, like for the school board, I mean, the school systems, they have their contracts written around, X amount of percentage for, I won't go back through it, but, X amount of percentage for all these different, phases that we're doing. But it's the old way of doing it. It's not the BIM way of doing it now. And you need to spend so much more time doing it the BIM way and having them understand that it takes a long time. I mean, crap, the project, we were talking about it earlier, Neil. It's just like, you've got all of these things, and right out of the box, Revit's not going to have everything that you need. I mean, we were talking about all the different resources for all these different, BIM programs that you can go to. But, in Revit, when I was working on this historic project, do you think that Revit out of the box is going to have construction details and window details and windows and all this, that, and the other from a building that was built in 1896? No. So what do I have to do? I have to build them. And it takes time to do that. They're not, nowhere in, BIM are you going to find a wall type that is an 18-inch thick, solid masonry wall. You're just not going to find them. So you have to create all that stuff. And the owners don't really understand that. They just think, oh, it's just a drafting tool. Click, 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 and you're done.
It's a good thing none of these owners listen to this podcast.
Well,
but isn't that our job or
we're
our
all
industries? but you make light of that. But I think in all seriousness, it's our industry's job to educate the public and or our clients and
our offices
and our bosses. We need to educate everyone. And it may not be true for every office, because maybe not every office is doing BIM, right? I mean, I think a large part are not, which probably makes that conversation a little bit more difficult, right? Or harder to have because we're all used to the way we learned traditionally in college and everything about, okay, like you said, a little bit in pre-design, a little bit in design development, the big work. The big chunk of the work is in CD phase. And with BIM, as we've discussed earlier, that curve has shifted and it moves more towards the pre-design and design development stage. And that's a conversation that's, very different from, what we've all learned, growing up in this industry. And so we have to change that conversation now with everybody that's involved. And not everybody's going to want to hear that. Right. It works just the way, like you just said, Cormac, doesn't this program do this faster? It's like, well, no, it doesn't. It still takes time. I guess it's not a whole lot different than somebody standing over you while you're trying to draft. Right. I mean, can't you draw those lines faster? It's like, well, they only draw so fast, right? I got to sharpen that pencil every once in a while.
And then there's another thing that we haven't even discussed about BIM, and that is, a lot more clients are becoming a lot more technologically savvy. They're expecting.
I don't know if I would use that word.
I don't know. Some of ours.
Or the way he said that. A lot more. What?
Technologically expectant,
okay.
I think.
Okay.
They just expect. I don't think they understand any of it.
You know what?
Well, that's not necessarily true because I've had clients send me mock-ups done in SketchUp.
But hold on, it's a little, kind of.
A lot of people say they want something, but they don't know why they want it.
Kind of a little bit different there, Neil, but similar, but a little different. So
sure,
our clients, especially like, public schools and things like that, they require now that the firms that they hire, use some form of BIM. Because they want, at the end of the day, they want it turned over as a model, and they have their paper drawings, but they also have the model. So if you're in a firm, a smaller firm or something that's not, if you're very reluctant to embrace it and you're not ready to kind of move into that, understand that you probably will be losing out of work too. Because it's not just the efficiency of, the productivity, but it's clients are actually looking for things like that. I mean, if you're doing it right and you're doing a full, Revit model and you've got all of your engineers and consultants on board and they're doing it too. I mean, you can do energy modeling. I mean, there's just so many different other things that you can do other than just creating architectural drawings out of it. There's, you can find out whether, if your daylighting strategy is going to work. I mean, there's so many things and clients want that. Can you provide this to me? Well, I could if I was doing it in BIM, but since I'm doing it in CAD, no, I can't. Well, then why do I have you as my architect? Let me go get somebody that can do it.
Well, Cormac, you bring up something that I recently acquired a 1987 vintage Macintosh SE.
I saw that.
And here's something, the
BIM machine.
The BIM machine, yeah. And it still works. It's kind of cool. But I want to bring something up else about BIM and technology, because here's a machine that's, 20, a little more than 20, almost 25 years old, right? And there's barely anything that I can, anything that was created on that machine is almost to the point where you can't even access that data anymore, right? I mean, it's so difficult. And so I guess what I'm getting at is you just mentioned, Cormac, the model, okay, yeah, they've got the paper stuff over there, but everybody wants this model. And we mentioned earlier about how, like, each new version of Revit, you open the model in, 2014, and suddenly that model from version 2012 or 2013 suddenly, gets upgraded, and now you've got to upgrade. You're stuck, right? We're only talking 1 year, right?
Yeah.
what happens when these models sit around, if they're
not
even
thinking about that,
even accessible, even if they're on a medium that's accessible, how useful is this information 20 or 30 years? I know they still want it, but
they don't know why they want it.
I'm asking kind of maybe another question is, how do we deal with BIM and technology in our offices for the future, right? I mean, if you just mentioned that nobody's probably got plans of that building you were working on, from the 1800s.
They didn't have them for me to work on, so it was all building surveys. No, they didn't.
But I mean, sometimes
you make your own as-builts. I mean,
but everything's being drawn now, and there's likely the chance that maybe there's some sort of copy of those plans that will live on, right? But if everything is just in the technology form or just in the digital form, maybe you can. I mean, I've got stuff that I produced in college using a program called Canvas. And Evan, you might remember that program. It was very great program. It was kind of like a merging of Photoshop and Illustrator in one program. You could do vector graphics, and you could do raster graphics. It's very cool. I did all kinds of stuff in that program. It just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it does in a PC form, but it has no way of accessing those older files. I mean, I'm just like, I have these data files that basically I can't even open. There's nothing I can do. I can't even, so unless I have a print of maybe what I created, that stuff's, it's dead. It's gone.
Isn't this why you're collecting all these old computers?
Maybe I can send before
I could fire up an old version of it, maybe. But that brings up another problem. A lot of, at least those old programs, right, were on floppy disks. Well, these floppy disks now are 20 years old. And luckily, actually, I pulled a couple out and that are literally from 1988, and I popped them in this old Mac SE, and they fired right up. And so I was lucky. But oftentimes those things just, they degrade and they go away, and you're stuck at that point.
Oh, technology is suffering the human fate.
It is.
Everything gets old, degrades, and dies.
Well, I think you're right about that. It's people are living longer, though, right? And so I think our data is living longer, and because people are starting to think about that kind of stuff. It's like websites, right? Now, if you've got a site with a blog, you can take that blog anywhere. I mean, that's kind of the idea, I think, with this whole BIM thing, is that you can. There are some amount of interoperability between all these file types where you can take your stuff to the latest, greatest thing and get get most of the data back out of it, if not all of it, because people are trying to solve those problems.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to point out that it is a problem, and it's something we should be trying to, in our offices, think about how we archive things so that we can, maybe try and access this in the future. Because quite honestly, if you don't have, well, I'll give you a funny example. When I first started working in this office, many years ago in the early 90s, they had this, old plotter, and the computer that it was hooked up to was this, a compact, PC. And it only had 5 1/4 inch floppy drives.
Obsolete.
What? No, even in 1994, this was beginning to become obsolete, right?
Well, you said compact, so
well, compact was a big deal back then. So
yeah, it was.
And the funny thing is because compact was a proprietary, they made proprietary parts for their PCs, and so even though they were PC compatible machines, they were very proprietary with their drives and other components that were inside of them. So you couldn't.
How Apple of them.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you couldn't just go buy a floppy drive and stick it in there from somebody else. Or at least this is what I was told. So I'm sure there's maybe some listeners that know more information about it. But anyway, the point of the story is that all of our gateway computers that we had in the office all had 3 1/4 inch drives, and that's what everybody was using. But many of us had to in fact, every gateway computer they bought they had to get it with a 5 1/4 inch floppy at the time, because they couldn't change out, and they were too, I don't know what the costs were, right? But this goes back to how much does it really cost? The cost to replace the disk drives in this compact, they didn't want to do that, and they weren't going to buy a new machine. And it's not, all sounds a little crazy right now, but in 1994, computers cost a little bit more than they did today. So they weren't going to replace that machine. So every new machine that they bought, which wasn't very often, right? Had to have both sets of drives, because if we wanted to plot, this was before we had a network in the office. This was back in sneaker net days, right? So in order to plot, we had to literally write our plot files to a 5 1/4 inch floppy, take it upstairs, load it into the compact computer, put in a string of, DOS commands. This was before Windows too. So you had to write DOS commands to get the PLT files to plot to the plotter.
Yeah.
This was a problem we had in 1994, right? About older technology.
We just got new problems. Yeah.
And so now we've, they're different, but they're similar types of problems. Is how do we access this data? Not only do we have the issue of, are we using BIM or using CAD or what, but, I think the archiving and accessing our data into the future, or accessing the past data, becomes something we have to be cognizant of and think about.
Yep.
Was it a pen plotter?
Cool.
Yes, it was.
Those are fun to watch.
Those were great.
That was long before the laser type plotters. Yeah, this was a total pen plotter.
Yeah.
Especially when your pens ran out part of the way through the plot.
Now the new problems is when the client's in the office after a long marathon meeting, and he's like, hey, can you print me out this, and this so I can take it back with me? Sure. You go in, you ask them, and you're expecting it maybe 5 minutes, to print all of this stuff out, because they've got to find wherever the files are. And when they hit print, the print server goes down. And then the client's just sitting there. It's just like, hey, we're rebooting everything. It shouldn't be, but maybe just a couple more minutes. 10 more minutes go by, 15 minutes go by. The guy's been waiting for, now he's like, changed his request to just 2 sheets of paper. And
right.
Yeah. And then I was just like, what? We're going to, once we redo this, we'll print it out. And we'll put it, we'll FedEx it to you, because I know you need it, and there's no way we're going to get it to you anytime soon.
There's no more running over to the blue line machine and say, we'll just run that absolutely and have it for you
all the time. But the one time you need it, sure enough, boom.
I used to tell my students, when I was teaching, I would say, when does the printer run out of ink? When the project is due.
That's right.
When does the computer crash? When the project is due. It doesn't matter how well you plan ahead. That's when everything goes wrong.
Or when you're recording the podcast, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, guys, let's bring this one to a close. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at archispeakpodcast.com, where you'll find links to our individual Twitter accounts and the Archispeak Podcast Facebook page, which, by the way, we've gotten a message actually through the Facebook page this week. So that was great to get. And also, too, don't forget, you can call the Archispeak Podcast hotline at 415-484-8496. And we got another call from our favorite listener, Jess, recently on that. So we appreciate hearing from you. Definitely. And sharing your story on that. And if you haven't already done so, please leave us a review on iTunes.
All right.
Everybody stay subscribed, and thanks for listening.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
I used to shy away from the stampede. I'd hibernate, hunker down on my heart all. To get good at the game, I had to grease up my riot gear. driveway, baby. Platform dancing, farm leg praising, and someone who proudly tumbled, diving face first, fat with chances, braving birthday soon. Oh, baby girl, Jim Dog dare me, turn the sprinklers on. Barefoot in the driveway, baby. I get naked. What do I got for my birthday suit? My little piece of creation. I'm gonna shake my mama, get mama, get mama, get mama, say thank you. What do I have what I want to do? I'm a buzz of elation. I'm gonna shake, I got love for you, love for you, love for you, love for you. I got love for you. I got love for you. Love for you. I used to shy away from the limelight. I tucked my face, uptight my sleeping bag to build a better base. I had to fly my war paint right. I'm a better place since you made me upright. Love is never fight. Triple dog dare me, turn the sprinklers on. Barefoot in the driveway, baby. Platform dancing, farm leg praising, and someone who proudly tumbled, diving face first, fat with chances, braving birthday soon. Oh, baby girl, Jibble dog dare me, turn the sprinklers on. Barefoot in the driveway, baby. I get naked. What have I got for my birthday suit? My little piece of creation. I'm gonna shake my mama, get mama, get mama, get mama, say thank you. What would I have when I want to do? I'm a burst of elation. I'm gonna shake, I got love for you, love for you, love for you, love for you. Get naked. What have I got for my birthday suit? My little piece of creation. I'm gonna shake my mama, get mama, get mama, get mama, say thank you. What would I have when I want to do? I'm a burst of elation. I'm gonna shake, I got love for you, love for you, love for you, love for you. I got love for you. It's ridiculous how much love for you.